It's time for the Half Hour to Health with Dr. Bob and Debbie DeMaria. Call a friend or family member now and let them benefit from today's exciting and informative program. If you want to lead a healthier life, the time is now.
Hello, this is Dr. Bob and Debbie DeMaria. Welcome once again to another very exciting Half Hour of Health. Tonight we're going to talk about a subject that's near and dear to Debbie and my heart. We're going to talk about ADHD, ADD, ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder. But what's really interesting is the physiology that causes ADHD or whatever of those conditions you might have. Unless that physiology is corrected, changed, or diverted, it'll lead on to issues with anxiety, depression, Alzheimer's, dementia, and early death. See, Dr. Bob, how can all of that be just because of ADHD? Well, ADHD, which is an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is a name. It's a label placed on a set of symptoms that's oftentimes caused by what we eat, what we put in and on our body. It's a novel idea for those of you who are watching me possibly for the first or second time. What you put in and on your body impacts your body. You know, Deb, it's kind of interesting because you and I have been a part of this wonderful TV station and people watching us for years and years and years. I am not even totally convinced that people understand that what they eat impacts them.
Well, I think because we have the media that's trying to get us to eat certain foods that really are not good for us. So why would they be telling us if it wasn't good for us? So, you know, the psychology there is a little difficult. And then we have conventional medical doctors that don't believe that either. So if they go to their doctor and they said, well, I heard this, do you think it has to do with what I eat? And they're hearing that has nothing to do with it. They really don't understand the body physiology. You know, it's kind of,
I'm just kind of like chuckling inside because, you know, what you're saying is absolutely true. How many people have come into our office and they went to their healthcare provider? I like to call it their prescribing doctor, the doctor who writes the prescriptions out. And if you say something contrary to them, you know, just like allergies, you know, it's allergy season, so you have to take this medication. Oh, it's cold season, you have to take this. So every season of the year, everybody has been programmed, you take this med, and nobody ever talks about what it is.
Well, let me come to their defense. Okay?
Be gentle.
Basically, they were never trained in that. So what they were trained in is how to write prescriptions and then how to, you know, their thinking is in a different side of their brain, basically. And so what we have seen is because we work with patients every day and have seen the transformation. If you eliminate this, this happens. If this goes wrong and you try to take this out or add something, for example, adding flax oil, correct? Adding minerals, adding B vitamins, we've seen the effect that it has on people. So then sometimes you start taking certain things away because, for example, sugar. What does sugar do? It really robs your body of your B vitamins and other vitamins and nutrition. And so what happens then is if you're eating sugar, you don't want to say, okay, don't eat sugar for the actual food it is, but if you take it a step further, the food of sugar has the detriment to our body because it steals from us. It robs, like a bank robber taking the money out of the vault, it robs our nutrients in our body.
You said that really good. You must be married to Dr. Bob. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about ADHD.
Okay, let's do that.
Because it is an epidemic, and Debbie and I mean, we're going back many years. Mm-hmm. We did a pilot program with 25 participants. So we posted around the community that we would be doing this program on ADHD, and actually, because of Facebook, I still see some of our participants, Deb.
Oh, that's exciting.
Which is really awesome. And we just sat down one Saturday. We didn't sit down. We had all these people come, and we told them what we wanted to do. Because for years, I knew just by reading information that we could help ADHD. Now, when we did the pilot program, we had them write down what they ate for a week, and we had their schoolwork. But because a part of my training is as a chiropractor, and I have a degree in spinal engineering, we know the spine is an integral part of how the body functions. Actually, it's everything how the body functions. And so what goes on is that your brain sets in the skull. It continues on as the spinal cord. The spinal cord is inside of the column. That was really important, by the way. So think of your spine as a conduit pipe. So here's what goes on. Your brain sends messages down the spinal cord. It actually sends 28 billion messages every day. But Debbie mentioned something a moment ago, flax oil. This is by the grace of God that I learned. If the messages cannot go down the spinal cord, it affects your body. Well, what would stop that from happening? Well, what I'm holding in my hand right now, would you mind holding this for me, Deb?
No, not at all.
Is a trans fat in the form of Crisco oil, a jar of Jif that's empty because when I fly around the country speaking, they'd take the peanut butter away from me because of the Homeland Security, and French fries. Now you can say, well, Dr. Bob, so what are you saying? What I have learned is that trans fat or partially hydrogenated oils interrupts your brain's ability to send messages down the spinal cord. So normal fat molecules in the body are C as Charlie shape. When they heat oils, and you cannot make trans fat at home, by the way, you have to purchase it because of the high temperatures. When they heat the fat molecules to make trans fat, the molecule twist becomes T as in Tom shape. Well, the T interrupts the formation of normal cell membranes in your body, interrupting the flow of information. Now, I want you to hold that thought for a moment. You say, well, Dr. Bob, so why did you show us the spine? Well, when we had the 25 participants, we took films of their spine, a side view of their neck. A normal neck, as you can see in my hand, is 45 degrees. That means that curve in the neck is a 45-degree arc. Well, when we took the pilot study, we found out that the child's necks had an average curve of 10 degrees. You say, really, Dr. Bob? Yes. That's an 80% loss of the curve. So we're dealing with two conditions here now, two situations. First, the spinal cord is being impeded or choked. And second, because of poor diet, the spinal cord's short-circuiting. So we're having these young children come in that have tried different diets, but nobody ever thought that trans fat was the issue. So kids were staying away from sugar, but what I'm holding in my bag right now, hand right now, is a bag of breakfast cereal. If you look at ingredients, one of the ingredients in breakfast cereal say that your kids ate this morning happens to be these little death balls. These are breakfast cereals that you and your children eat. If you look at the ingredients, it has trans fat in it. So what's happening is you're starting your day off with trans fat. That trans fat confuses the cell membranes in your body. A part of those cell membranes are fat. Your brain sends a message down on a layer of fat called the myelin sheath. 28 billion messages every day. So literally what's happening is your body is confused. But here's the real hook. When you eat trans fat, there's something called a half-life. Do you remember back in biology days, the half-life of uranium was like 3,452 years or some number like that? Well, trans fat or partially hydrogenated oils have a half-life, and it is 51 days. That means if you and your child eat trans fat or partially hydrogenated oils, it interrupts normal fat metabolism, not only for 51 days, but for 102 days, because it's the half-life of trans fat. But here's the good news. The good news is this. Normal fat, C molecule fat, has a half-life also. It happens to be 18 days. And that's one of the reasons the title of my book is Dr. Bob's Guide to Stop ADHD in 18 Days. It's not about Dr. Bob. It's about your body. When you put the right nutrients in it, will help resolve, manage, and control the symptoms caused by altered fat metabolism in 18 days. Now, you have to stay away from fries. You have to stay away from breakfast cereal and peanut butter. Well, Dr. Bob, you're not being nice to me. Oh, there's lots of cereals that don't have trans fat in them. And actually, some of the major finer restaurants and health food stores in the United States are now trans fat free. The city of New York will not allow trans fat to be used in the restaurants. The state of California, okay, will not let trans fat be used in any of the restaurants. And Whole Foods, one of the largest health food stores in the entire world, will not let trans fat in their store. Do you think that's pretty serious, Deb?
It is pretty serious. And what I want to tell people, though, is it's not even an option anymore. You need to read the labels in the stores. You want to make sure what is saying. And why I'm saying that, just yesterday, I went into a conventional grocery store to purchase a few things. They have organics there. And I went and I was looking for some stuffing for my mom and my dad. I was going to make them a chicken and stuff it. And I could not find a stuffing mix without trans fat in it. And high fructose corn syrup and corn syrup. It had all of them in there. So you are thinking something that is going to be healthy. I'm going to stuff a chicken. I'm going to get stuffing. And I couldn't even find it without trans fat. That's pretty amazing, isn't it, Dr. Bob?
You know, Deb, I'll tell you, I'm kind of chuckling. I should be crying because, and it's so good that you're watching this program today, because what Debbie and I are telling you, this is not patty cake. This is like real life. You know, just recently in my office, I had some people that I had not seen in a while. All three of them came with major health problems. 2 with cancer, 1 with a gallstone issue. Do you know that 95% of all chronic debilitating disease, and this is not Dr. Bob saying this to you, this is just what research says, 95% of all disease conditions in the United States today could be improved by changing diet alone. So you might say, well, Dr. Bob, it's just stuffing. It's not just stuffing, is it, Deb? It is most of the foods that you have in your pantry have trans fat or partially hydrogenated oils.
Well, you know what? Let me just take it one step further. Okay, so I said stuffing, but if you would want to do a gravy and you look at what the gravy has in it, and then let's say you want to do some kind of, even some rolls, Dr. Bob. Rolls have like high fructose corn syrup, might have some trans fat in it. So you're adding a meal that could be totally filled with trans fat for your family, but you're thinking you're doing them something good. You're home cooking, per se, and really it's all laced with all of this type of, so that's why you've got to read the labels.
And before I take a break, Deb, one last item is applesauce. Everybody thinks applesauce is so good, and applesauce really is good. The best kind of applesauce is for you to make your own applesauce at home. You get the apples, you cut them up, you stew them, you mash them, applesauce. But I know, because we've used it on props when I spoke before, applesauce has high fructose corn syrup.
It does.
We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Hello, this is Dr. Bob DeMaria with my friend Nick Abraham, and I want you to know I've had a Nissan for over 30 years. And Nick Abraham Auto Mart, Nick, I tell you what, I love you guys.
I'm glad. We have a lot of customers that love us.
And not only do you have Nissan, you have
Ford, Buick, GMC.
And I know that the Ford is an awesome model today, isn't it?
The Fords are fantastic. they're the best-selling car in the United States right now.
You know what's interesting is a Buick is a high luxury car. Too bad they call it like, you know, they talk about being like an older person's car. What a smooth ride.
Not anymore. That car is good for everyone. The new LaCrosse is fantastic. We have people changing from Lexus, from Cadillac. You know, they're going to the Buick. It's priced right, and it's up to date. It's smart. They're great cars.
Well, you know what I love about Nick Abraham, his service is tremendous. They always take care of my vehicles. I have never had any challenge whatsoever. I'm talking 30 years I've had a Nissan, 6 of them. And my parents have had products from Nick Abraham. My son, we serviced his vehicle there. If you're thinking about getting a car, easy access all over Northern Ohio, you can come, right?
Right. The Route 2, the Turnpike, 480, 10. You know, it's easy to get to.
Something else you like about Nick Abraham, his staff have been there forever. If you have a place that you have people that have been long-term, you could be confident that you know you're going to get the service you need. His family works with him. I'll guarantee you this. If you need a vehicle, you can trust Nick Abraham. Easy access anywhere in Northern Ohio. Give them a call. Check out to see what's on sale, what's available. Any color you want, I guarantee you, they'll make it happen for you. Get one today. You'll be glad you did. Hello, this is Dr. Bob and Debbie DeMaria. Welcome once again to our Half Hour of Health program. And this evening, we've been talking about ADHD and ADD and ODD. Now, a couple hooks here. Are you ready for this? ADHD kids go on to become ADHD adults. Yes, you heard that right. Let's say there's 5 million kids in America today that have been labeled ADHD. There are 8 million adults. Mostly men, not always men, but men need more oil. And actually, young boys tend to be a little bit more ADHD diagnosed than young girls because of the requirement for oil inside of their body. And so what happens is we have this epidemic today. Now, I'm going to throw out a frightening statistic. Are you ready for this? It was just recently posted in the Wall Street Journal. 15 million kids take some type of medication for ADHD in the United States. 15 million prescriptions. That's a lot of prescriptions. 10 million prescriptions were written in the United States last year for psychotic meds for kids under 20 years old. You say, well, Dr. Bob, that's serious, but you don't ever hear people talk about it. Actually, and let me be really honest with you, I have people that get really upset with me because we're talking about that ADHD is not a disease. See, they want everybody to think that ADHD is a disease and it's a genetic disease and my mom had it and the only way that I'm going to get better is because I'm taking these medications. You know, this is kind of like, is a headache due to an aspirin deficiency? So is ADD due to a lack of Adderall, Strattera, Clonidine, or Ritalin? Of course not. It's like everybody totally negates the whole idea that they have any responsibility themselves for getting the ADHD. So, you know, I need you to really pray for me because there's a lot of people that say unkind things about the book, Dr. Bob's Guide to Stop ADHD in 18 Days, because they don't want to take responsibility. Now, my real challenge is for moms out there, don't feel guilty because your child may have some behavioral issues. I need you to become very firm with them, and we have always in our practice, wherever you watch me, because I know you could be watching me anywhere in the world right now, this video, you need to get our book, Dr. Bob's Guide to Stop ADHD in 18 Days, because every child that comes into our office whose family participates with making the right lifestyle changes, that means number one, getting rid of trans fat, they always see improvement in ADHD. And I know that we just had a young man that was on our program that had ADHD, and I'm going to make sure that it's on our website.
Well, Dr. Bob, I think what we need to tell everybody is that you and I have 28 minutes here that we are trying to put as much information into your hands as we possibly can. Yet, we don't even have enough time to scratch the surface. But I would suggest, and I'm going to show the book, we're very excited. This is another new addition to our ADHD book. It's the newest one, just recently released. And we just want you to get the right information, the correct information. And this is a bestseller. It's also been #1 on Amazon many times as they rotate through. And we are passionate about what we can do for you and your family. So Dr. Bob, when we were just talking at the break, we were talking about labeling, and before we end, because the time really goes quickly, can you talk to them about that so they have the right idea of the kinds of fats that are out there?
Well, it's, not to confuse you, and there's another book that I've been fortunate to write. It's Dr. Bob's Trans Fat Survival Guide, because trans fat is the issue. Trans fat is also called partially hydrogenated oils. And you might say, what does that mean, Dr. Bob? Well, in essence, what they've done is they've taken oil. So normal oil is C-shaped. When they heat the oil, the molecule starts to twist because of the intense heat. Right before all of these hydrogens are added to the molecule, they stop the process. You say, what does that mean, Dr. Bob? Partial hydrogenation means the oil is not going to be solid. Partially hydrogenated oils are usually soft and liquidy at room and in refrigerators. A hydrogenated oil, which tends to be more saturated, is solid. So they thought by making it almost like butter, but it's not exactly like butter, it wouldn't do harm. So partially hydrogenated oils, and I've read articles about this in various books, they say they don't know exactly what's being produced. I'm sure that they really do. They just don't want people really to understand that. But also, let's just briefly talk to you about a few other items. Milk, for some children, could be the reason they have ADHD. You can say, well, Dr. Bob, why did you make such a big deal about trans fat? I'm going to share 3 letters with you, and you write this down. It's D as in Delta, H as in Harry, A as in Alpha, DHA. DHA is docosahexaenoic acid. It's a long-chain fat, and that is the fat that's used for brain health in your body. We talk about that in great detail in the book. Trans fat interrupts your body's own ability to make DHA in the brain. Dairy products can do that for some individuals. Chocolate milk, from my observation, is like a torpedo of death for young kids. You don't want to give your child chocolate milk. You don't even want to give them dairy milk if they have ADHD problems. You can say, how do I know that? You take them off the milk for a season. What do you use for a replacement? Coconut milk, rice milk, almond milk, and even hemp milk. So there are nut milks that don't interrupt the DHA formation in the brain. We encourage our patients to take at least 1 tablespoon of flax oil per 100 pounds. We also use a marine oil that is anchovy and sardine-based oil, and it tastes really good, by the way. You can say, anchovy oil? I hate anchovies. Trust me, anchovy and sardine oil is pretty much flavorless, and the reason that we use those oils today is because they're not sourced from fat fish that often have toxins. I know a lot of you always see individuals in your family maybe have issues with ADHD because of sugar. Debbie mentioned something to you earlier about vitamins and minerals. Sugar takes vitamins and minerals out of the body. So vitamins taken out of the body because of the sugar interrupt your brain's ability to make the DHA. So here's what happens in a nutshell. You eat food. Food becomes a part of you. But when you eat the food, it has to go through steps. Those steps require vitamins and minerals. Sugar takes B vitamins out of the body, takes B6 out of the body, zinc, and it takes magnesium out of the body. You may say, well, Dr. Bob, who cares? Well, your brain cares because your brain wants to make good fat. And it can't make good fat if you've been eating sugar, because the sugar is sabotaging minerals in your body. And I mentioned this to you at the beginning of this segment. ADHD kids go on to become ADHD adults. I've also read many articles that ADHD individuals, and some of them are very creative, and they use their creativity in a very logical, possible, and positive way. But there are also individuals that have ADHD that lose their job, miss work, have more traffic accidents because their brains are a little scattered and they're not focused. The real seriousness about the medications used today, and I'm telling you, 15 million prescriptions, that's no small deal. It has been used per year in the United States. These medications, like Ritalin, is a Schedule II drug. That means it could be addictive. The government keeps track of where those products are sold in the United States, and that's one of the reasons I learned about ADHD back in the late 1990s, was the fact that in the USA Today they had a map of the United States, and they showed the amount of snack food that was being consumed in the United States. And right here in Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, we are consuming, now you're talking many years ago, about 24 pounds of junk food or snack food at that time. The next part of the United States was up in the New England area, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, a little bit around 23 pounds. And then they had LA and they had Florida. LA and Florida had about 19 or 20 pounds. A year later, our local newspaper did an expose on where all the Ritalin was used in the United States, and the maps overlaid each other. The most Ritalin was used in Michigan, where 8% of the kids in a school district in Upper Michigan were taking Ritalin on a regular basis. So that's when I got the insight that ADHD was probably being caused by something they're eating. It happened to be trans fat, and it's history. And one of the reasons that we've been so blessed to write Dr. Bob's Guide to Stop ADHD in 18 Days. Now, wherever you're at, anywhere in the world right now, whether you're 5 years old or 80 years old and you're having some emotional and behavior issues, you need to get the book. You need to watch this video again. You can even come into where we live in Cleveland, Ohio. We will make a difference in your life. For all of you that are local in the Northeast Ohio region, Western Ohio, Mid-Ohio region, come to our office. We normally charge anywhere from $165 to $200 for an exam, depending on how many films we might need to take. We will do that